The third key, focus your flow. Where attention goes, energy flows. James Redfield. Whatever you do, don't look at the wall. When they train race car drivers, this is one of the most important things they teach them not to do when speeding around the track at 200 miles per hour. Can you guess why? Because you will hit the wall if you focus on it. World champion race car driver Mario Andretti, who is one of only 2 drivers ever to have accumulated an abundance of trophies across different styles of racing by winning in Formula One, IndyCar, World Sports Car Championship, and NASCAR, understood this concept well. He has stated that his number 1 tip to be successful as a race car driver is, don't look at the wall. Your car goes where your eyes go. My father put it more simply when I was a teenager heading out on one of my first long road trips when he said, "Keep it on the road, son." It seems simple and obvious that we would pay attention to where we want to go, not where we don't. However, if we examine our inner dialogue as well as our actions, it is shocking to see how often we focus on the walls we don't want to hit in our lives. Lipton's Believe It or Not. Many in our society continue to subscribe to widely accepted but outdated cultural narratives. For example, many people's understanding regarding something as foundational and fundamental as their own genetics is actually inaccurate. Most of us were taught that we are born with certain genes based on the DNA given to us by our parents, and that these genes provide us with a rock-solid blueprint for how we look, how smart we are, and essentially what we are capable of in life. We've been led to believe that genes don't change and that they are static. For better or for worse, we are stuck with whatever we were born with. If our father had cancer, we have a good chance of getting it ourselves. If our grandparents both died of heart failure, we are a likely candidate to go the same way. On the other end of the spectrum, we often praise those we deemed as having quote-unquote good genes too. There actually used to be a repository for germinal choice, aka fancy sperm bank, that only accepted samples from Nobel Prize winners and other supposed genetic superstars. I was actually waiting for a call from the founder for many years before I finally gave up. I never could quite figure out why I didn't hear from him. Puzzling, right? Seriously though, we essentially tell a story of genetic fatalism in our society. Some of us lose the genetic lottery and some of us win. Many of us have subscribed to this deterministic assumption as an absolute truth affecting both our behavior and thoughts as a result. The rapidly growing field of epigenetics, which literally means above genetic, has disrupted our traditional understanding of genetic control. One of my favorite past guests that I've interviewed on the Positive Head podcast is Dr. Bruce Lipton, a former professor and research scientist from Stanford and the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine, who has helped lead the charge in the field of epigenetics. In his groundbreaking book, The Biology of Belief, he shares his decades-long journey researching epigenetics. In his book, he defines epigenetics as the science of how environmental signals select, modify, and regulate gene activity. This new awareness reveals that our genes are constantly being remodeled in response to life experiences, which again emphasizes that our perception of life shape our biology. Well-known author and thought leader Deepak Chopra put it like this: in the original model, the effects of our genes were considered to be fixed and unchanging, controlling every aspect of our physical makeup, behavior, and susceptibility to disease. Not just eye color, height, and other physical characteristics were predetermined by inherited genes, but perhaps all kinds of behaviors, from criminality to belief in God. The new model, however, portrays a more fluid, dynamic genome that responds quickly, even instantly, to all that we experience, including how you think, feel, speak, and act. Every day brings new evidence that the mind-body connection reaches right down to the activities of our genes. Regardless of the nature of the genes we inherit from our parents, dynamic change at this level allows us almost unlimited influence on our fate. So, as you can see, it's time for the limiting human narrative of genetic fatalism to be rewritten as an empowering story of genetic volitionism. Plant good seeds. Our beliefs, as well as how and where we focus our thoughts and energy, is crucial. Another popular experiment that demonstrates this involves sending thoughts and intentions to two different plants over a period of time. In 2018, the furniture giant IKEA conducted this experiment very publicly for the Bully a Plant experiment in support of Anti-Bullying Day, which involved students at a school in the United Arab Emirates. During the experiment, two essentially identical plants were kept under separate controlled enclosures and received the same amount of nutrition, water, and light over a 30-day time period. The students at the school were then encouraged to send words of praise to one plant and send insults to the other, via recordings they made that were then transmitted to speakers rigged inside each separate enclosure. After the 30 days was up, the difference between the two plants was dramatic. The plant that received good vibes and compliments was thriving and looked extremely healthy, while its insult-riddled counterpart was very droopy and had wilty, discolored leaves. If focusing our powerful thoughts and intentions on a simple plant can have such extreme effects, imagine the effect of focusing our thoughts and intentions on ourselves or on our fellow humans. I stopped fighting the law and I won. Most of us have at least heard about the law of attraction. It essentially states that what we give energy to, whether in thought or deed, we attract into our reality. This concept has been somewhat controversial. Some swear by it, and others think it's just pseudoscience. But if it is indeed a real phenomenon, it doesn't really matter because just like any other law, such as the law of gravity, you don't really need to know how it works to be affected by it. If you walk off a cliff, for example, you're going to feel the repercussions of the law of gravity regardless of whether or not you understand gravity, or even if you aren't aware that such a thing as gravity exists. I believe the law of attraction, or however you refer to this phenomenon, is a fundamental rule of the game of life. And understanding this fundamental rule is a crucial step toward unlocking abundance because, like understanding gravity, understanding the law of attraction helps us to avoid unnecessary pitfalls. The issue is many people simply don't understand how it truly works. There's a misconception that belief is the only factor involved in the law of attraction. However, I believe there are many factors at play when it comes to what we are attracting into our reality, and our beliefs are just one of those factors. Other factors include your past experiences and state of consciousness, the energetic offerings of society and the collective consciousness, as well as your karma and dharma. Karma and dharma are ancient Vedic terms that refer to past deeds in this and past lifetimes, and your soul's grandest expression of service in this lifetime, respectively. So, as you can see, there are a lot of factors at play when we are cooking up what we wish to experience. A lot of people think the law of attraction means if they sit back and imagine a delicious bisque long enough, it will just magically appear in their bowl. Anything is possible, but most of the time we will also need to take some sort of action to attract what we desire. To keep with the soup analogy, think of manifestation as a recipe with many ingredients needed to achieve the desired result. Every time you make a manifestation soup, it will be unique because the ingredients themselves, as well as the amounts used, will always be slightly different. And even then, there are other energetic forces aside from your most immediate efforts that may lead to your soup having an unexpected flavor. So I wouldn't count on a nice bisque appearing if you're just sitting around trying to wish it up, especially since you've left out the key word in law of attraction: action. Be it to see it. Statistics shockingly show that a significant proportion of all medical healings, including surgery, are the result of the placebo effect. Research has revealed that many people that never actually undergo surgery still display improvements if they believe that the surgery occurred. What this demonstrates is that belief and faith are always crucial ingredients to consider. Augustine of Hippo understood the importance of faith in the process of manifesting our desires over 2,000 years ago when he said, "Faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward for this faith is to see what you believe." I like to say, be it to see it. Neil Donald Walsh explains it simply in the Conversations with God book series, which describes how most people live by the formula of do, have, be, meaning they do something like work in order to have something like money so that they might be something like happy. The problem with that approach is that as the creator of your experiences, manifestation actually works in reverse. The correct formula to implement is actually be, do, have. If you proactively make the decision by choosing to be happy, you will find your world increasingly reflecting your happiness in the things you find yourself doing and ultimately having. Be it to see it. Your primary job is to manage your vibration and swim in the frequency of joy as you inevitably expect the path to be shown to you as to where and what you should do next. Trust and know that the answers are already on their way. It's not if, but when, and once you are shown, you will be in a state to take inspired action. When you are in alignment with your optimal path, it will always feel like it is flowing, not being forced. There will be a sense of excitement of being on the right path. However, whatever action you take, it is imperative that you always do so with a healthy sense of detachment, because rigid, unhealthy expectations are essentially premeditated resentments, and you ain't got time for that. Always remember, if it doesn't come as you envisioned, it's okay. Because as Abraham Hicks says, things always work out for me. And it's always this or something better. Sometimes you are being led to what appears to be a dead end when really that chapter of your journey just ended because you learned or got what you needed from that particular experience, and now it's time to grow in a new direction. Grow till tall. Author and teacher Derek Rydall builds on the law of attraction with his concept of the law of emergence, using an analogy of an acorn. He explains that within an acorn, the full-grown oak tree already exists in potential, but will ultimately be realized only if the right conditions are created for it to grow. If instead of being planted in fertile soil, in the right climate with plenty of water, the acorn ends up in a child's pocket and then on a shelf in their bedroom, it will never reach its potential to become an oak tree. Derek goes on to essentially say that all of the abundance we could ever wish for our lives to yield is already inherent within each and every one of us, and it simply takes us creating the right conditions for that abundance to bloom. So, from his perspective, we aren't really attracting circumstances and experiences to us per se, as much as allowing the potential that is already inherent within us to emerge by creating the right conditions for it to do so. Your higher self obviously has a very good sense of humor since you have been fishing for minnows sitting on the back of a whale your entire life. Luckily, more and more people are beginning to understand that at some level, they are creating their reality based on what they give their energy to, but there are still many who do not. Once you start to see it for yourself, it becomes really obvious how many other people are still giving energy to that which they don't want. Whether it's the person that sits next to you at work who's always complaining, or someone ranting on a Facebook feed, many people are consistently focusing their energy in the wrong direction. We all know that one person that talks and thinks a lot about sickness and disease, or dis-ease. Have you ever noticed that these types of people tend to get sick very often and are rarely at ease? I think I was lucky enough to intuitively understand how important mindset is at a young age because I started telling people early in my life that I don't believe in getting sick. As a result, I've never been admitted to the hospital since the day I was born. I have no aches and pains, and I can't say never, but I very rarely get sick. Nobel Prize winner Mother Teresa demonstrated a deep understanding of this concept when she said, "I was once asked why I don't participate in anti-war demonstrations. I said that I will never do that, but as soon as you have a pro-peace rally, I'll be there." Mother Teresa understood that what you give energy to, you create more of. That's why it is so important to focus your energy on being for something and against nothing. If you don't like something in your life, the best thing you can do is give it no energy. Now, this doesn't mean you should never acknowledge something that arises that you don't prefer and just stick your head in the sand either. Identifying what you don't want is actually very helpful when deciding what it is you do want. However, it is of paramount importance that once you identify what you don't want, to then shift your energy to focus on finding a solution, rather than continue fixating on the problem. Consider that from the most expanded perspective, there are no problems, only solutions. Think of every thought you transmit like a boomerang. It goes out and collects like energy to the vibration of the thought you are transmitting, and then adds that vibrationally similar energy to the soup of experience you are cooking up. Another good way to conceptualize this principle is to consider a guitar string. If you have two guitars next to each other and you pluck a string on one of the guitars, the same string on the other guitar will start vibrating too, because the two strings are in resonance with each other. Well, the same thing happens with your thoughts. Your string of thoughts will draw experiences to you that are a vibrational match of those thought strings you choose to pluck. So then by keeping your thoughts focused on solutions, you will attract experiences that dissolve your obstacles rather than fortify them. As mentioned previously, there are many factors at play when it comes to what we are attracting and stirring into our soup of experience. Even though our thoughts and beliefs aren't the only factors, they are definitely main ingredients. Arguably the most admired philosopher of all time, Jesus of Nazareth, stressed the immense power of belief when he said, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." Henry Ford also understood this when he said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." So look on the bright side. You have never been wrong. The art of flow. Okay, so we know it is important to focus our energy on what we want more of, and to put no energy toward things we don't want to flow into our reality. But what do we do when we attract something we don't want or expect? The secret is to learn to surrender to the waves. I like to think of myself as a cosmic surfer that is learning to ride the waves that rise and fall, flowing with what is unfolding, not paddling against the current any longer, as that is exhausting. Anytime I catch myself feeling agitated and stuck, the moment I let go of my desire to control the situation and remind myself to stop resisting, I instantly feel a deep sense of relief. It's as if I have burst through the water's surface, finally catching my breath. Surrendering in this way immediately eases the tension and frees up my precious energy so that it can flow toward a solution. Society has taught us to fight for what we want, to go upstream, but as Abraham Hicks teaches, nothing you want is upstream. Some of the happiest people I know are those that just go with the flow of where life is taking them next. Oftentimes nomadic, or gomadic as I like to call it, they typically have no major agendas and no definitive plans. Instead, they just focus on becoming more adept at riding the waves of life in synchronicity. As you become more sensitive to reading and sifting through energies to determine where to place your powerful focus, you will also begin to realize the importance of knowing when to surrender to what is wanting to unfold that is outside of your conscious intention to manifest. Michael Singer wrote a great book called The Surrender Experiment that documents how his rich and fascinating life journey unfolded through repeated acts of divine surrender, allowing himself to be attached to nothing and viewing everything as helpful feedback, informing him where he should navigate to next. What Singer was tapping into is the art of flow, and being in the flow is a powerful place to be. Learning to flow gracefully is a skill that naturally arises as you become more aligned with who and what you truly are. The art of flow emerges as you learn to balance disciplined thought and action with surrender to every wave that arises. When you fully understand how all these subtle energies and forces come together to create our experiences, you will begin to focus your flow by integrating the understanding that you buy what you pay attention to. And it can truly start to look and feel like you are tapping into magic. The word abracadabra is derived from the Aramaic phrase avra cadabra, which translates to, "I will create as I speak." So when you use your words as your wand, indeed you are spelling. However, as you chase the magical rabbit that pops out of your proverbial hat further down the abundant rabbit hole, there is another important factor to consider more than ever as humanity enters a new phase of evolution: intention. The fourth key: align your intentions. All doubt, despair, and fear become insignificant once the intention of life becomes love. Rumi. As I mentioned earlier, humanity is currently transitioning into a metaphorical butterfly. In the caterpillar's world, the underlying intention to take what it wants at all costs made sense during that phase of its evolution. However, in this new phase of evolution on planet Earth, I believe it is becoming increasingly important that our intentions are positive and pure. Remember, compared to the destructive regime of the caterpillar, the butterfly's intentions are symbiotic with nature, constructive, not destructive. So if you want to know what the outcome of an action is going to be in the butterfly's world, look no further than the root intention. Is it love-centered or self-centered? Although selfish acts at the expense of others may have appeared to work in the past, in the love-centered world of the butterfly, those types of self-serving acts just won't fly. It is imperative moving forward that you act from a place of pure intention, considering the impact of all involved, knowing that what you put out will ultimately be reflected back. It all comes back to you. This realization was first driven home for me many years ago when my brother shared a lucid dream in which he felt he was visited by my dead grandmother. At the time, my brother and I had recently moved to California from the East Coast with dreams of making it big in the music biz with our band Kundalini. So my brother decided the best use of his airtime with our deceased grandmother was to ask her what she foresaw becoming of our band. Her response: "You are going to get out of it exactly what you put into it." Now, Kundalini never made it big, but why? What collective energies did the 5 band members put into it? Did our intentions come from a pure, love-centered place? Well, our intentions weren't bad per se. One of my personal intentions when we formed Kundalini was to raise our listeners' consciousness through music, but if I'm being honest, the stronger group desire was for fame and fortune, which I'm sure you would agree is slightly less noble. Now, you may be thinking, sure, okay, but I don't think the 80s hair metal band Def Leppard's intention to get sugar incessantly poured on them was exactly the noblest of intentions either. But there are many factors at play when it comes to what we are attracting into our reality. It's also important to consider what the members of Def Leppard were putting out energetically to garner mainstream success. Perhaps as a group, they collectively had more faith they would be successful than we did, focused less on hitting the wall of failure, practiced more, etc. Besides, they may have accumulated wealth and fame, but there are many other forms of abundance as well. And who's to say their apparent success didn't come at the expense of the ultimate abundance, health and happiness? Now, none of this may have actually been the case, but my point is just to share a hypothetical example to highlight that there are many factors to consider when you are examining the results of any endeavor. And remember, times are shifting. Acts that elicited results in the 80s may have been less effective for my band as we were emerging on the scene in the early 2000s, as the world was further along in its transition to the butterfly stage. The ultimate intention. To add to the complexity of factors to consider, there is a natural ebb and flow of intention inherent in nature that is the underlying current of creation. We have control over our intention at a personal level, which can impact the intention at a societal level, but there's also the ultimate intention, which comes from Source, God, Creator, Higher Self, the universe. Since we live in a free will universe, we can set whatever individual intention we want, but if it is not aligned with the intention of your higher self or the universe, the results you get may be less than desirable. We've all heard the saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." But in this new phase of humanity's evolution, I would say the road to heaven is paved with aligned intentions. One of my favorite philosophers and teachers, Dr. Wayne Dyer, wrote an entire book dedicated to this subject called The Power of Intention. In it, he explains that intention is not as much something you do as it is an energy you're a part of. He suggests it is more about connecting to the all-pervading energetic force of pure intention in the universe that allows the act of creation to take place, or as I prefer to call it, the source consciousness that creates and animates all things. Not only do you emanate from this field of pure intention, but if you align yourself to it, your desires become fulfilled and you find yourself at peace. His book was originally inspired by Carlos Castaneda's perspective on intention. Castaneda stated, "In the universe, there is an unmeasurable and indescribable force, which those who live of the source call intention. Absolutely everything that exists in the entire cosmos is attached to intent by a connecting link. Sorcerers are not only concerned with understanding and explaining that connecting link, but they are especially concerned with cleansing it of the numbing effects brought about by all of the concerns of living at ordinary levels of consciousness." When he uses the word sorcerer, he is not referencing a wizard-type character out of a Harry Potter novel, but rather someone who lives of and is aligned with source. A sorcerer, if you will. As you align with the intention of your higher self, the ultimate intention of all intentions, experiencing incredible things such as manifesting your wildest dreams and miraculous healings are genuine possibilities and even probabilities. By cleansing your connection with Source, dreams that once felt impossible become inevitable. Or as Dr. Dyer puts it, I am realistic. I expect miracles. So in this new world we are collectively stepping into and creating with the power of intention, it is crucial to look at the intentions we are setting and aligning with. And as you begin to understand that we are all extensions of one another and everything that we see, the basis of all decisions naturally becomes anchored in the truth that all is literally one. It begins to become apparent that all deception is an act of self-deception. A snake eating its own tail. Gandhi understood this when he said, "If you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others." Why does this sage wisdom hold true? Because there are no others. Whatever I do to another, I am doing to myself, and therefore I will ultimately feel the energetic repercussions of my actions. The prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi, who lived in the 12th century, is one of the most beautiful intention-setting statements I have ever heard. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. I firmly believe if a person opts to adopt St. Francis's intention as their own, it is an extremely powerful yet simple formula for an abundant life. Instead of constantly chasing the carrot to get something more for ourselves, what if we finally stopped the chase and asked the question, how and where can I give more abundantly? If you attract what you put out, how can you give more of what you want to experience in your life? I believe the universe will always find a way to present us with opportunities to give to others what we want for ourselves in some way, shape, or form. This is the ironic, cosmic joke that the universe is constantly waiting for us to clue in on. When a divine opportunity to align your intentions with service presents itself, do it, do it, do it. This is how you energetically attract what you want back to yourself, because the truth of the matter is you are always doing it to yourself. I call this the good kind of selfish, the kind where everyone wins. As you become more proficient at focusing your flow to align your intentions with the ultimate intention of Source, and alchemizing the events and circumstances in your life into opportunities to sow mutually beneficial outcomes for all involved, you will find yourself gracefully and joyfully floating in the present moment more often and thoroughly enjoying whatever shows up. Because it is indeed true that, as aspiring writer Nancy D'Souza has said, a heart with pure intentions will never lead you astray. The fifth key, BBB. Be here now, Ram Dass. I have always found etymology, the study of the history and origin of words, fascinating. When you break words down, you often find their deeper meaning hidden in plain sight. I've noticed in some cases, a person's name appears to give you an indication of their character as well. For example, the former investment advisor, Bernie Madoff, burned everyone and made off with their money by orchestrating the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Or take the former New York congressman, Anthony Weiner, who fell from grace after he was exposed, pun intended, for being involved in multiple sexting incidents where he sent nude pictures of himself. The universe definitely has a sense of humor. I had to smile when I originally examined my own name and first uncovered the message the universe apparently wanted me to discover. In the past, I often struggled to slow down and be present in the moment. My parents have told me that when I was a kid, it was nearly impossible to hold me. I would squirm until I got away because I had much more important things to do. My full name is Brandon Brent Beecham, initials BBB. However, it wasn't until I was well into adulthood that I realized how important it is to just BBB. The present is the gift. So in my own journey, as I continued to uncover the path to greater fulfillment and abundance, at some point it became apparent to me that the more I slowed down, was present, and could just be, the happier and more peaceful my life became. I believe there is a very good reason that two of the most popular transformational self-help books ever written are titled Be Here Now by Ram Dass and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. They both speak to this essential key, to BBB, that helps unlock the abundance that is inherent in the present moment. Whenever we are focused in the past or future, we are doing so at the expense of the present, and this is expensive indeed. And speaking of words holding a deeper meaning, I believe the present is called the present because it is the ultimate gift that we have been given. Too often we spend our time longing for the past or worried about the future, which is really just a poor use of our powerful imagination when you think about it. The reality is, the future rarely comes exactly like we imagine it, and when we gaze into the past, we're often seen through rose-colored glasses. I'm sure many of you can relate to getting nostalgic for a past relationship and only remembering the good times, but filtering out the memories of how much it annoyed you when your former partner incessantly nagged you or kept you up all night snoring. Some 2,500 years ago, Lao Tzu, the great Chinese philosopher and reputed author of the Tao Te Ching, understood the importance of living in the present moment when he said, "If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present." Important to note, he did not say, if you are happy, you are living in the present. He said, if you are at peace. Inevitably, there will be times when you are not particularly happy, but by applying the proper perspective, you can alchemize those challenging moments by choosing to be at peace regardless of what is transpiring. The truth of the matter is, we can deal with anything that is happening in the now if we choose to be fully present. If you're ever worried about the future, I would encourage you to recall how rarely your greatest fears have actually come to pass. Your personal history is a testament to the fact that even when something challenging does emerge, you have always been able to get through it. So if you don't prefer your circumstances in a given moment, you can always find comfort in knowing that this too shall pass. As the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, change is the only constant. However, on the flip side of the coin, Be aware that this is true of the good things in life as well. This is another reason to be present in every moment and appreciate the people and things we love, because change is inevitable and the moments we hold dear will eventually pass too. The good news is the infinitely abundant universe can usher in unlimited new gifts on the winds of change, especially if we are vigilant about remaining in the present so that we are sure not to miss them. Now and not later. The importance of being present in the moment ultimately becomes even more clear as we begin to see that there actually is no past or future, there is only now. Both Das and Tolle reference this truth in their books, that now truly is all that exists, and therefore where all of our power lies. And as discussed earlier, Einstein's theory of relativity demonstrates time is actually dynamic, as opposed to static, and so in actuality our experience of time as linear is an illusion. One of my favorite philosophers, Alan Watts, eloquently explained how the now is all there is, and how eternity is synonymous with each and every now moment when he said, "You are this universe, and you are creating it at every moment. Because you see, it starts now. It didn't begin in the past. There was no past. If the universe began in the past, when that happened, it was now. But it is still now, and the universe is still beginning now, and it's trailing off like the wake of a ship from now, and as the wake of the ship fades out, so does the past. You can look back there to explain things, but the explanation disappears. You'll never find it there. Things are not explained by the past. They are explained by what happens now. That creates the past, and it begins here." So when you begin to understand there is only now, then the past and the future have less of an impact on the present moment. Or as Watts also said, the wake doesn't drive the ship any more than the tail wags the dog. So anytime we are overly focused on our past actions or future possibilities, we are actually giving our ability to affect true and powerful change away to an illusion. I once made a watch that just said, "Now," on the face. To this day, it is the most accurate watch I have ever seen. Your past doesn't dictate who you can be unless you decide to drag it forward with you. In actuality, we are born anew in each new now. Our powerful cause to produce effects always lies in the now, and luckily for us, there is an infinite abundance of now moments. So as we begin to shift our focus away from a time-based perspective of reality, and the realization begins to settle in that there is no past or future, and we are all floating in the eternal now, we are freed up to experience the abundance of the present moment as the gift that it truly is. Consider the time-shattering notion that 1 billion Earth years ago, you were somewhere experiencing a different now. And in 1 billion Earth years, in what we call the future, you will be in another now moment somewhere else. To take it a step further, since time is actually an illusion, consider the notion that both of those past and future moments are actually happening in this eternal now moment as well. To make it a little easier to wrap your brain around, think of it like your 5th birthday party is playing out at this very moment on another channel that you just aren't tuned into. The same way you can only hear the radio station you are tuned into, even though many others are simultaneously playing on other channels. Celebrate good times. It's time we stop the insane modern-day trend of dancing with the intention of getting to a certain spot on the dance floor, or listening to the song of our lives with the intention of getting to the last note. Instead, I implore you to celebrate every note in the song, trusting and knowing that you will always be at the exact spot on the floor that is in your highest interest. You always have exactly what you need most in every moment, however it presents itself. Fully experiencing wherever you are in your life's journey at every moment is the ultimate goal and the path to unlocking your true potential. You, my friend, have officially arrived at the chapter of your life where it is time to stop chasing fulfillment. Now is the timeless moment for you to be and allow fulfillment to flow to you and through you. Now is the time for you to stop playing small because you finally realize this moment is as divine as any moment ever has been or will be, and you are ready for life to take on a new golden shimmer. It is your destiny to realize that being fully present is where all the treasures of abundance await to be discovered, and being present in the now naturally leads to greater trust in the unfolding of your life.